The Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee, led by Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, have presented 8 recommendations to the federal government of Nigeria to make the Nigerian economic environment comfortable for businesses. We'll look at these recommendations and also look at the recent announcement by Mr. Dangote on the show today. Welcome to Market Square. My name is Oluwakelumi Awe, and I'm happy you joined in tonight. In a bid to achieve reduced inflation, improved price stability, relief, and generation of employment, even the promotion of non-oil export and international trade, even then to have prudent financial management and financial sustainability, and more than that is the consolidation and collaboration of true information. The Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee has recommended 8 moves that can help to achieve all of that and even more. Over a year ago, during an interview, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, who was at the time a partner at PricewaterhouseCoopers, spoke about the need for the government to raise revenue without raising taxes. Take a listen.
We know government needs money. Because government does not have enough money to fund critical infrastructure, fund overheads, and the rest of it. But the question is always, how do you strike that delicate balance as to what do you tax, what rate of tax would be appropriate, and when should you impose that tax? So government is proposing to increase, not that the tax has not been imposed before, government is proposing to increase the excise taxes on non-alcoholic beverages, on beer, on tobacco, and a few other products. Interestingly, we were surprised. Personally, I was surprised. Why? Because just this time last year, there was a lot of back and forth when government said we're going to increase the excise rates. A lot of information was provided. Government still increased it more than what the industry wanted, and it was accepted as a compromise. Government then said, these are the rates of what you pay for 2022, 2023, and 2024. And then a few months down the line, government said, actually, we want to increase it further. When, in fact, if you look at the economic circumstances and the business environment, things have gotten worse than they were before. Which means, if at all, we should be talking about either reducing the rates or suspending them, or at best, you freeze the rates without increasing them further.
Say it's better said than done. Now, he is the chairman of that committee. We're going to look at his recommendations one at a time here now. The first recommendation is that the committee recommended that the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, the statutory body responsible for tax collection and administration, be changed to the Nigeria Revenue Service. It also recommends that the 36 state revenue services should serve as departments under the recommended name Nigeria Revenue Service. The second recommendation by this presidential committee is the reduction of the revenue collecting agencies to one. The committee suggested that Nigeria should streamline its revenue collection under a single agency, just to take out the complexities around tax collection. And what it will do is that it will enable efficiency in revenue collection and most definitely boost the country's fiscal space. The Nigerian Revenue Service has been recommended to do a good job at that. Sometimes it's just best to compress all of the collection channel into one. What that does is that it helps for tracking of what amount has been gotten by who got the amount, what is going to be remitted for different projects. So the committee has recommended that all of the taxes be streamlined into one. The committee also recommended that the number of taxes be reduced. So they have recommended that the department that seem to collect the tax should be reduced, and also said that the taxes collected should be reduced into most likely single figures. The committee plans to reduce taxes to a single figure tax base from over 60 taxes and levies that have been overburdening on the business environment. Remember that these recommendations were put forth to the government to ensure that the Nigerian economic environment is one that is encouraging for businesses and that businesses can strive. Because when people have so many taxes to pay, then they begin to have a kind of a drawback with respect to launching more into the country, expanding their businesses, getting more persons on board. Because the more the persons you have in your company, the more the tax you pay. Isn't that how it works? The more the persons you have in your company, the more the tax you pay. I mean, most bosses even will transfer the payment of the tax to their employees. We have payee. We have payee there. Even last week Thursday, I spoke about the states in Nigeria today who are earning quite a lot of money, and I picked up figures from the National Bureau of Statistics from 2022, speaking about the fact that Lagos is number one on that list. I guess Lagos is still number one on that list. You have Rivers State as number two, most likely. You have FCT Abuja on that list as well. So when people have too many taxes to pay, what that does, it discourages them from investing in the country, and most likely will bring about reduced employment, because they may not be able to employ so many persons, as they know that for every one person they employ, they would need to pay more taxes. The committee recommended 8 taxes, including income tax, value-added tax, that's your VAT, recommended property tax, recommended customs duty, recommended excise tax, recommended stamp duties, recommended special levy, harmonized tax, and even social security contributions. And these are the taxes that the committee has recommended that should stand. And every other tax should be under all of this. Every other tax should be under all of this. I've mentioned already: income tax, value-added tax, property tax, customs duty, excise duty, stamp duty, special levy, harmonized tax, social security contribution. All of the other taxes should be categorized under any of these taxes as recommended by the committee. The committee also recommended key changes to the value-added tax and also the excise duty. The committee has recommended the following changes to VAT and also excise duty. They recommended that there should be full deduction of input VAT on all supplies, including services and assets. And that makes for a very clear understanding to say that they have recommended that for every time supplies are made in service and assets, there should be VAT collected. But again, the ratio, the percentage of the VAT to be taken from that has not been specified, and it's only expected, given the video you saw before where Mr. Taiwo Oyedele spoke about the fact that government needs money, no doubt. But even as much as the government needs money, there are ways to improve revenue than raising taxes. The committee also recommended zero-rated list expanded to include agriculture, medical, and educational services and other basic consumption, saying that every company, every organization that is into agricultural production, into medical services, into rendering educational services and other basic consumption should be excluded from paying some level of tax with respect to VAT and excise duty, because these are the simple element. These are the parts of the economy that most times absorb a larger chunk of the people in the labor market. Think about it. Agriculture, for instance, when I was in secondary school, I wrote an essay, most likely. I think I wrote an essay, or was it in economics, where we were asked to write out why how Africa can maximize it's over 75% individuals who are in the agricultural sector. If you attended that question, let me know in the comments. We asked that, and I think I did answer that question as well. So agriculture every time seems to absorb a lot of people into that sector, and the committee has recommended that the government should exclude these industries from paying VAT as much as possible. They've also spoken about ensuring that the people in the medical space also don't pay VAT to a very good extent, because It's about life here, and agriculture is about food, food, shelter, clothing. The medical line is about life here, and also the educational sector. Without these key industries in any country, you can already tell that the country is 100 years behind, because these are the industries that make for a steady economy and a forward-looking economy. The committee also recommended that export of services and intellectual property be rated at zero tax level. So meaning that when we have to export services, not talking about import, now export services, the government should look at how not to charge excise duty. Excise duty is a tax levied on goods exported, all right? On goods exported. So they're saying that the government should ensure that when people, because it just helps, when I know that I will not pay excise duty most likely, or reduce the possibility of paying the excise duty when I send out my good. What that does is I am spot the more to produce, I am spot the more to do stuff in my country. I can employ more people to work for me because I know that the order of paying excise duty has been taken out of the way. And that's what the committee has recommended to the federal government of Nigeria. They also recommended compensating adjustment to VAT rate and alignment with ECOWAS directive on VAT rate. They also made clear faster refund process for VAT. If you are a Nigerian in Nigeria, you already know that our refunding process is very, very slow. It's very, very slow. Somebody did a transaction, I think 2 weeks ago, and they did not revert the money until after 3 days. On the 3 good days, So the committee has recommended that, so in this case of tax, the committee has recommended that there should be a system of faster refund of VAT. The fifth recommendation by the committee is changes to 2024 withholding tax regulations. Talk about exemption of small businesses from withholding tax obligations. Talk about lower rates for businesses with low margins in terms of the fact that we ask you to bring your books, and we check your books, we realize that you're not making so much sales. We can most likely tell you to pay less tax, and that works. That works actually. It's saying that we're going to check your books and be sure that you are not hitting certain targets as much as possible. And knowing that if we ask you to pay VAT, it's like putting additional burden on you. So why not just take that off you and have you pay what you have to pay with respect to what it is that you are able to produce. In economics, there are about 3 classifications of taxes. There is the progressive tax, meaning that as much as your income increases, you will pay tax. As much as your income increases, your tax rate will most likely increase. And then there is the proportional. I think progressive is that if you earn more, you pay more. If you earn more, you pay more. Proportional is that you get to pay tax with reference to how much you make. So if you don't make so much money, you're cool. You don't make because it's just a level playing ground. If you make an amount of money, you pay more tax to an extent with respect to the amount that you make, and that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? So this recommendation by the committee is that businesses who don't make a lot of sales can be rest assured that they will not be pressured to pay beyond what they can afford. Talk about exemption for manufacturers and producers such as farmers and all. And we also know that the manufacturing sector in the economy in Nigeria today employs a lot of persons. If you talk about agriculture, for instance, because most of what they even use in the manufacturing companies are from the farm. So you want to make, for instance, orange juice. You don't pump orange juice from the ground. You get farmers to farm, and then the farmers bring the oranges to you, and then you pay them for doing that, and then you process the orange, and then we have orange juice. But again, look at that. The farmers are being employed. The workers in the companies have been employed. The drivers have been employed. The drivers who go and get the product from the farm have been employed. The people in the manufacturing companies have been employed. And we have more persons employed in the manufacturing sector as well. And they are saying here that some level of exemption or consideration should be given to people in this space. They also mentioned about measures that could help curb tax evasion and avoidance. And in basic economics, we know about tax evasion, we know about tax avoidance. Most people don't want to pay tax. And most rich people don't want to pay tax as much as they should pay. Whether you like it or not, as a citizen in Nigeria, you're paying tax. You're paying tax indirectly. This is how it works. When a company wants to produce a good, they have added the tax that you will pay to that good, most likely. And then they say you buy the good, and then you are paying tax indirectly. So the committee is saying here that they intend to put in place some measures that will ensure that people find it difficult to evade taxes, find it difficult to avoid taxes. The sixth recommendation by the committee is about priority sector incentive. The committee has recommended broad-based priority sector incentive over pioneer tax incentive scheme in the country. Now, priority sector incentive are a type of government program designed to encourage investment and development in specific industries or sectors of the economy, and I consider to be important for national growth. So the government looks at a particular space and then says, we want more industry players here. How can we draw them in? Because we are prioritizing this part of the economy. But a way to get more people to come and invest here is to make that place suiting, is to make that place an inviting place. Yeah. So they're saying, for instance, some of the incentives that the government can put in place, which the committee has recommended. You have tax breaks, tax holiday, where you're saying for the first 1 year of work of producing good, you will not pay tax, not under my watch. Says the president, right? And then you also have subsidies in that light. The government saying we're gonna subsidize the good. We know that producing this good will cost a lot. If you have to sell the good to customers for the amount for which you have produced, they will need to pay a lot of money. So what we can do now is we're gonna invite you into that space, give you some advantage, pay a part of the production of the production cost, so that you can then tell citizens to pay the balance, all right, the balance of what has not been paid. And you could also have regulatory breaks. You can have infrastructural development. You can have skills development. And if you look at the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway project ongoing at the moment in Nigeria, and I learned some days ago that it has been reduced. I was on Viewpoint last week Monday, speaking about 1 year in office of the president of Nigeria, an interesting conversation we had with the host or the hour there. And part of what I mentioned on the show was that the government has decided to even step up its energy and effort towards ensuring that the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway project gets to completion most likely by the end of next year. All right. I think the Minister of Works mentioned that they intend to be able to reach about 47 kilometers by next year, July, and that is something inviting for companies. It's something inviting for people who want to play in that sector there. This will guarantee sector-based improvement and will represent for businesses government's interest in their business to grow. It represents that the government of a particular country is ready to ensure that businesses thrive there. Listen. There is no country in the world that doesn't apply any of the things I've said here. Tax breaks, tax holiday, subsidies, regulatory breaks, making sure that infrastructure is solid. All of these things, most of the countries you admire and I admire, have a way of implementing these things to invite people to come. Take for instance, you have Canada visa, for instance, and sometimes I think was it 4 months ago, it was said that I think the Canadians were looking for people to come, and then they brought down certain measures so that people can come in. So every country has a measure of inviting people in, and this one, the committee is saying that the government can implement these ideas to ensure that businesses come in, and those businesses that already exist can stand for a long time. The committee recommended again on the seventh note that there should be reduction in company income tax. The committee has recommended a 5% reduction in the company income tax for businesses in the country. This would reduce the company income tax from 30% to 25% if implemented. This will encourage more business investments in the country and expand operation and also bring about employment of more citizens, which would increase economic activities. before now, some minutes ago, Paul played video of Mr. Taiwo Oyedele speaking over a year ago about the fact that the government can actually raise revenue without raising taxes. And you can see that if he looks at some of the ideas that he had in mind are the things that are now playing out today, right? And saying that we should be reducing company income tax such that companies know they can pay less, they're encouraged to stay the more, and most likely we'll have less companies closing down. Less companies closing down because of disincentives already created and drafted by the federal government of Nigeria. On the 8th note, the committee recommended the adjustment to the structure of the federal government annual budget. Now, this is the last recommendation by the committee to the federal government of Nigeria. The committee intends that the budget be split into infrastructure, human capital development, personnel costs, and administrative overhead, amongst many other key areas, with the promise that this adjustment will ensure the government spreads more effectively on critical areas that will stabilize the economy and in some way create more opportunities for citizens. And it will even guide the effective and efficient allocation of the public resources to programs, projects, and services. So we await the command of the president with regards to this, or his directive with regards to this, to see if this can be implemented going forward. But from a look of things already, I see this working, and it's only a matter of time before inflation reduces, unemployment reduces, and many other infrastructural development, grows in leaps and bounds, and we'll get to a level where we say, see, it's a good year, all right? It's a good year. If you are hoping to get petrol for a cheaper amount in June 2024, you may need to wait till July, as the management of Dangote Refinery have said the plan to release petrol into the market this month will not stand. Listen to Mr. Lingo Dangote say it himself.
What we are doing is to be able to export our petroleum products to anywhere and compete with any company. By next week, we'll be producing less than even about 10 ppm in terms of diesel, which now what is happening in the market is that you import about 2,000, 3,000. So we will produce the best. PMS, it will start coming out by, we had a bit of delay, but it will start coming out by 10th, 15th of July. But then we want to keep it in the tank to make sure that it settles. By third week of July, we'll be able to take it into the market.
Mr. Lingo Dangote, while speaking at the Africa CEO Forum Annual Summit in Kigali, Rwanda, earlier in May, mentioned that the sale of PMS was going to commence in June in Nigeria this year. On hearing that, many marketers and Nigerians were hopeful that once the Dangote Refinery commences production of petrol, there will be a crash in the price of petrol from around 700 naira per liter to, let's say, 500 naira per liter, or even lower than that. It is easy to see why many people were excited at that announcement by Dangote, because in January 2024, Dangote Refinery started the production of diesel and jet fuel. And from that time, the price of diesel in Nigeria noticeably reduced. What used to sell for 1,700 naira now sells for 1,000 naira. Okay, and that makes for a significant difference in the price of diesel. It has helped to reduce the reliance on imported fuel and even stabilize prices to a very good extent. It has also created employment opportunities for people in Nigeria. I mean, Dangote Refinery has employed quite a number of persons in the last couple of months because of the kickoff of operation at Dangote Refinery. And we cannot put aside the fact that has contributed to our economy in some way. In fact, in one of the news I read online, one of the news outlets I read news online, it was said that Dangote made it known during his visits to Rwanda that Nigeria will not need to import a drop of fuel in most likely a year to come. That was his promise there. And that when I read that, I was quite excited being a Nigerian to see that. So there have also been reports of Dangote Refinery exporting its first batch of jet fuel to Europe, which has brought in foreign currency, and that's quite wonderful. But Dangote, Mr. Lingo Dangote, recently said that the petrol that he spoke about coming into Nigeria in June will no longer come in June, will only come in July. And you heard him mention the time frame for that to happen. And he mentioned that it was about some minor challenges that made this delay happen at this time. So he's looking at saying 10th of July, from 10th of July to about 15th of July, we should begin to see some few from Dangote get to our filling station, get to our marketers, and get to our filling station, and then it also will then reflect in the price of petrol for the citizens of Nigeria. It's been an incredible time having you on the show today. On the show today, we have considered the proposal by the Presidential Committee on Presidential Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee, led by Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, the recommendations to the federal government to respect the taxes. We've also considered Dangote's announcement that petrol will not be available from its own end till the 10th of July, till the 10th of July 2024. Let me know what you think in the comments. I want to encourage you to follow us on all our social media platforms, on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, even on TikTok, and get to see our posts when we make them. My name is Oluwapelumi, where I'm glad you joined in today. See you on the next one.